Anything interesting happened today, Will?
Big news, actually. Did you miss it? Kareem Jackson signed in Houston.
Oh, no, I didn't see that. Dang.
Did you not really?
No, I did.
I figured, yeah.
Yeah. It's really funny you say that.
Good
I was
acting.
almost going to open the Russell Wilson video with that exact same joke. But we've got breaking news about the Broncos. It is huge. I can't believe this is happening, but Kareem Jackson not only waived, but going to Houston.
Where he has been suspended again.
Kareem Jackson was fined on his way to Houston for an altercation on the airplane. We got
he led with his head on the airplane.
Yeah. All right. We got Russell Wilson stuff to talk about. The Let's Talk Broncos crew out for the day. Oh crap. Yeah, I'm supposed to get a haircut right now. Oh my god, I forgot.
Do you want to go?
Okay. No, we'll bang this out.
Okay.
Let me say.
Your hair looks great already, so if you miss it, it's not the end of the world. I'll say that.
Okay, so we just finished the video about Russell Wilson. He's benched. He's getting benched by the Broncos. They decided they're going to go with Jarrett Stidham for the next 2 games or whatever. And there's a lot there we can talk about. But right before we go on the show, I saw this tweet from Jordan Schultz. So I'm just going to pop that up there.
Yeah, and Schultz has always been like a Russ insider more than anyone.
He's got good intel, but he's saying Russ is benching by the Broncos. It's financially related, which you and I alluded to in the episode. But this word's weird. It says the Broncos approached Wilson 2 days after their October 29 upset win over Kansas City and told him they would bench him for the rest of the season if he didn't adjust his contract and defer the injury guarantee trigger date that he has for 2025. Wilson has $37 million in injury guarantees for 2025 that will become guaranteed no matter what on the 5th day of the league year here in March. So that goes along with the idea that the Broncos are benching Russ now so he doesn't get hurt these final 2 games, and then they have to pay him through 2025 all of the money, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing beneficial about it. So then there's more info here, right? But it's basically saying the Broncos asked Russ to change this for him, change the injury guarantee, change the date or whatever, which is fine. I think you can ask a guy that, especially after the way, Russ had played, but to threaten to bench him for it, kind of fucked up. I mean, I get why the Broncos are asking that. They gave him a ridiculous contract. They got a new coach. He doesn't want to move forward with Russ. He wants options after this season. So there's all this info here. If you're watching, you can read it. But apparently it says, when the threat was made by the Broncos, the team, Wilson's camp, the NFLPA, and another unknown party were involved in negotiations that ended with no change in Russ's contract.
Who is the unknown party is my question.
Future.
You think Future was a part? Yeah, that might be it. I was going to say even like shadier. Richard Sherman. Yeah. Arguing on behalf of the Broncos.
Yeah. And so this is interesting, but then right after I saw that, I think it was Ryan Koenigsberg tweet out that Russ has liked a couple of these tweets saying that the Broncos threatened to bench him. And in our video about Russ, I went on a little bit of a rant saying that the one thing I really respect about Russ is he doesn't say shit like this. He doesn't go to social media to air his grievances. He doesn't throw teammates under the bus. Yeah. And so Russ liking a tweet like this is probably the most aggressive thing you'll see him do, but it also makes me think this is very, very true. Like there's
Also, how many people do you think have access to his Twitter? Probably like a handful.
A handful of the closest inner circle of the team, right? The team 3 or whatever, the PR team.
Yeah. And by the team, we don't mean the Broncos. We mean Russ's.
Russ's team.
His team. There's no, just that's what burners are for.
Yeah.
Right. like Kevin Durant did it a long time ago. You gotta, you gotta circumvent this somehow. I get that you want to drop a like, but yeah, I mean, this reminds me so much of the Derek Carr situation from last year.
Yeah.
Up to like literally Jarrett Stidham taking his place, which is
I mean that part of it, but also it's two stupid things in the contracts that are forcing the Broncos to do this and force the Raiders. What gave the Raiders no leverage? Carr's like, no, you can just release me. You have to release me, or you have to pay me. And Carr didn't blink.
We can only hope that Ciara didn't cry after this.
Yeah, I don't think she did.
No, they've got a lot to fall back on, I think, in that house.
Yes. So it's weird. I didn't think we were going to be talking about this coming into the podcast. Like I literally saw this as I was waiting between the episode going up and for you to pop in here. So like, I don't even know exactly what I think about it, other than this kind of makes the Broncos look like dicks a little bit, makes Sean Payton look a little bit more like a dick. They're not wrong. They're not necessarily wrong, but like the way they went about it, the way it sounds, it's a weird thing to do to a quarterback of Russ's stature. And it doesn't happen often because most of the time when you pay quarterbacks this amount of money, they usually play up to that, outside of maybe Carson Wentz is the other example.
Goff in LA, maybe.
Yeah. But what were your initial thoughts about the benching of Russ and I don't know what this team's going to be doing this offseason with all this?
I just think I know we're like during the live stream of the Chiefs game, we were saying pretty seriously, actually, like this team would be better with Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot to pull it. I was going to try and find all your tweets were mid-game. You're like, put in Stidham. Yeah.
And that's the sad thing is if they had done this earlier, like who knows, maybe the team gets an extra win or two. And also maybe they don't win that game at Buffalo or Minnesota, or you never know, but it would have been nice to roll the dice a little bit earlier because obviously they're not eliminated, but it's a 5% chance they make the playoffs. And after losing to Bailey Zappi and the Patriots, Easton Stick and Aiden O'Connell are no shoe-in victories by any means. So I just I wish they would have done it earlier from a football perspective. It makes sense now that you're virtually out of the playoff race. The thing that confuses me is that I think it was Tom Pelissero said that he's still going to suit up and be the number 2 quarterback, which who knows, maybe after the drama that this tweet is causing, maybe they rethink that and go with Ben DiNucci as the backup. But that's strange to me if that happens because you're taking him off the field specifically so he doesn't get hurt and you don't have to pay him $37 million in 2025. But anything can happen. Then Jarrett Stidham's one play away from getting hurt himself, and then Russ is back there on the field, and all of a sudden you're holding your breath every play, right?
Yeah.
And then at that point you just call wildcat plays to Javonte Williams on every snap, and make sure no one gets within 5 yards of Russell Wilson. But and I do and I have thought this for half the season that I just think Jarrett Stidham gives him a better chance to win, or at least a chance to run the offense that Sean Payton wants to run. I'd hesitate to call him a better quarterback, but he can do more. And the middle of the field is going to be open for the first time this season. I think they're going to get rid of the ball in a more timely fashion.
Yeah.
They're going to eliminate some of those stupid sacks.
Yep.
You'll probably see a couple more turnovers, but that's definitely a trade I'm willing to make.
Yeah, it's tough when you're trying to do something, when you're trying to run a system, and there is a big part of it you cannot do because of the limitations of your quarterback.
Right.
And like we talk a lot about like good coaches adjust their systems to quarterbacks' talent and skills. And I'm sure like they have tried to do that. But I think with Russ, you get two things every game.
Mm-hmm.
And he is looking to that check down
so quickly.
I was watching, just putting the video together where he turned to the running back before Jerry Jeudy got even close to getting into the area of where you think the ball's going to go on his route. Like you've got three receivers with their backs all turned to Russ still, and he's just going like this. And maybe you could say maybe he's identified the coverage and he knows those guys aren't going to be open, but I don't think that's
yeah. I don't necessarily think that Russ is working on that level, not because he's not smart, but because I don't think he gives himself enough time after the huddle to think about the defense and go through different scenarios in his head, which like obviously you need a good 8, 9, 10 seconds to even be there. And it's week 16 and they're still taking a bunch of time just reading the playoff.
Yeah, I think Russell Wilson he's doing everything to limit interceptions.
Agreed.
And the easiest way to do that
in the world.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say interceptions aren't the worst thing in the world. Josh Allen throws a lot of interceptions. But he
also has the most touchdowns this season combined, 40 TDs, throwing, rushing with 15 picks, which is one more than Mahomes, which is two more than Jalen Hurts, which is like you've got to fucking throw the ball in this league, and you got to get touchdowns.
Kurt Warner threw 22 interceptions the year he won MVP.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like you don't want a guy like throwing more interceptions than touchdowns.
Right.
But, this was just another tweet apparently Russ liked, was the Patrick Mahomes comparisons.
Jesus.
So, and that's probably part of that's probably quite honestly one of the problems with Russell Wilson, because he probably thinks he's still as good as Patrick Mahomes. And I
agree.
Not.
Yeah. He hasn't. The rest of the league has adjusted to Russell Wilson, and his coaches have adjusted to Russell Wilson. The only person who hasn't adjusted is Russell Wilson.
Yeah. There's blame for him. It's so hard because like so much of the blame is weird and unwarranted, or just misdirected. But there's a lot of football reasons why you and I, when we were talking to Derek Wolfe, he's like, we found our quarterback, right? And we're like, I don't know
what to say. Well, far be it for me to disagree with Derek Wolfe, but
he physically threatened us immediately after, so we recanted it. But
right, I'll just let the events of today speak for itself in that regard.
It was a surprise that it happened today.
You think it would happen? Well, you can't do it on Christmas.
That's the other thing. Like Christmas has fucked Russ and this team twice now, 2 years in a row. Christmas ended Nathaniel Hackett's era. Embarrassment on Christmas Eve ended the Russell Wilson era.
What if we just kept Jerry Rosberg?
I know.
I don't want to do that though. I don't want to do that whole rabbit hole.
No. Who was the OC with Rosberg at that time when Russ was dealing?
Justin Outen.
Was it Outen calling the plays there?
It's the best he's looked.
Yeah. And, I think I'm just looking at this Patrick Mahomes stat thing. And today, like before GPS, I was thinking about like, I'm going to have to defend Patrick Mahomes a little bit because now he's getting unfairly criticized for some of the struggles. And like the Raiders made the Chiefs look inept. Like their offense looked like garbage on Christmas.
Right.
And I was watching Mahomes throw passes that were very un-Mahomes-like because he had no other options.
They weren't Mahomey.
They weren't Mahomey. They weren't Mahomey. But like anybody who knows football knows, like Patrick Mahomes is still fine. Chiefs got other issues.
Yeah, it's just a question of like, is he good to cover up an offense that doesn't have prime Travis Kelce and
no, like
Tyreek Hill anymore?
You know, you need playmakers.
Yeah, you do. You do.
That's why fucking Brady left New England and then went and tore it up with the Buccaneers, right? It's
exactly, yeah.
You know who may be like the biggest elevator of receiver talent might be Matthew Stafford. Maybe he doesn't get enough credit for elevating his ball catchers.
That's a guy who doesn't sweat interceptions.
No.
He's like, all right, I'll throw 15 picks. Also throw 40 touchdowns.
Yeah. Sometimes he might throw them on purpose, honestly. He's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make up with this.
Keep him honest. No, but that how much life would be better if we had just traded for Stafford instead.
Dude, Stafford with Sean Payton. Oh man. It'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Man.
And I think honestly, looking at these final two games, the guy who's going to benefit the most from Russell Wilson's benching is probably Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see Stidham get him the ball. He's going to get more targets. He's going to get the ball where Russ doesn't really throw it too often. Was it the Lions game? It was like the first play. He hits Jeudy coming across the middle, and we're like, holy shit, he did it. He got him across the middle. You're going to see a lot of that, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean,
they practiced that play all week. Russ knew he could go there. They got the coverage they wanted. He made that decision before he snapped the ball and got it to him.
Yeah, it's like, okay, an entire third of the field is now available to work with. Whereas, I wonder how it felt to be a receiver in that huddle, being like, oh, shit, I have to run the button hook inside the numbers. Like, I'm just not getting the ball. I'm doing cardio right now.
Yeah. And, and I think the last game, because we didn't recap the game because it was Christmas, but I thought when Cortland Sutton left the game, it was just done. There was like, the offense wasn't as good. They don't get me wrong. The Broncos made a comeback and Russ helped lead the comeback. They helped two late TD drives. But like you also pointed out in the episode, you never see more than 2 good drives from the Broncos offense in a row. And so I capped that with like, if you could just do 3 drives every now and then, you might still have a job, but you don't.
Absolutely.
And, Sutton leaving really hurt Russ. And now I don't even know where Sutton's at in the concussion protocol, but if he comes back, you got Jerry Jeudy in there and kind of the emergence of Kroll. Are we Kroll stands?
Kroll show. Yeah.
Kroll show. I
like him. He's athletic. He's quick. And like with the middle of the field, you got a quarterback who's going to target tight ends too. Yeah. Like you can just do more. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better, but the menu isn't limited now.
Yes.
You're going from In and Out to like the Cheesecake Factory, essentially.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see like that, how often Stidham is sacked, how often it looks like he's pressured versus the way, we've grown accustomed to good protection turning into Russ is running for his life, turning into possible sacks, which is, I think, one of the other huge issues with him. And I don't think that's changing at this point in his career.
No, not at this age. And Stidham, too, like he's not going to be as evasive as Wilson. He's not going to like run backwards or anything, which is probably a good thing. But he's pretty fast, too. He's not like Kyle Orton back there.
It's young. Those young guys are, you forget like 22-year-old guys who have been playing sports their whole life usually can move.
Yeah, there was a time when Peyton Manning could run a little bit.
Dude, there's nothing better than seeing an old highlight when Peyton Manning's like scrambling or running. You're like, holy shit, I forgot he could even do that.
You watch his high school highlights at Newman, and he's burning down the field for 50 yards.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, even like Peyton Manning, who's unathletic by NFL standards, is, 10 times faster than a high school kid.
Yeah. Like, I forget, like a Justin Herbert's fast.
Yeah. It's all relative motion out there.
Yeah.
We need like what do they have in like the horse races that like pace it? We need one of those basically.
Yeah, the pace rabbit or whatever those things are. Yeah.
Just to show like truly how fast they are.
Yeah. So the Christmas Eve loss to the Patriots, it felt like the end of the season for me.
Yeah.
Season's over. They could sneak into the playoffs. And I mean, sneak in the most like slim chance sort of scenario.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they deserve to be in there after that loss.
No.
And it's a funny thing that losing to a Belichick coach team is what was the put it over to get Russ benched. Like, that's just another thing that doesn't seem to make sense. A shitty Belichick coach team is what did Russ in, but it was a winnable game. They blew it. But now I'm a little excited to watch just a different QB with Sean Payton. I don't necessarily think Stidham's the answer, but if he looks good, he might buy himself time as a starter next season. And I certainly believe this puts the Broncos in full-on drafting a quarterback mode, which I thought they would be in regardless. And I think as somebody put out a Sean Payton tweet today, says that I think he was asked about, does Russell Wilson get too much of the blame? Do you put too much blame on Russ? And he was like, I can't replace 5 offensive linemen and get 5 new wide receivers. Something like that.
So pretty honest.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that's like, how are you going to dress him for a game now? Like, you have to basically be like, go home.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
But if you're getting paid, what he gets paid.
Yeah.
You can suck it up too.
Yeah, it's a pride thing. When athletes get old, you see shit like this, this gotta be really hard for them. He's not old. When they start they're out of their prime. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see. Do you think he can break the record for cutaways? Think he can beat Taylor Swift on how many times he's cut away to on the sideline?
I think I think they have to.
Yeah.
Because they'll follow him, and like they'll have that moment where Stidham comes off the field after like a touchdown drive, and they got to see like the body language around the other quarterbacks and the coaches. That's always the indicator. It's like, is he in there? Is he like trying to help, or is he kind of off doing his own thing, doing the Jay Cutler NFC Championship?
I wish we knew like him and Stidham were like really tight, like they were really good friends. Because then I would like to imagine that Russ is just kind of like talking shit to him the whole game.
Yeah. I have a feeling. Wouldn't you just put DiNucci in there? I mean, as a backup?
Yeah. I mean, yes.
I don't get it.
It's a weird situation.
Well, we'll see. We're also a few days away from having to make that decision anyway. Yeah. This is just hearsay.
It is hearsay. It's appropriate. We've come full circle. The promo code for Underdog Fantasy is still Let's Ride. I have a private draft set in. I'll put the link below. I got a private draft. It's a $25 draft, 12-person. First place can win $195. If you want to play, it's this week's slate of games. So if you want to draft against me and play, I will link that below. Use our code Let's Ride. If you sign up at Underdog Fantasy, they got drafts. You got pick'em games. You're picking higher or lower on stat totals, fantasy points, depending on what state you live in. And now you got to think about the Stidham line. I don't know what his fantasy points are going to be, but I have really been hitting on backup quarterbacks going higher because they get low fantasy totals. A lot of them 10, 11 points. I'm like, they're going to get more points than that. And I think I've been wrong on like one backup all season. I've been wrong on a lot of other shit, but on those ones, pretty good. So make sure you use our code when you sign up. Link below, private draft below. Last question I want to ask you, Will, because I got to bounce.
Yeah.
Do you think like with the stuff we talked about at the beginning, the Broncos asking Russ to change that or they'll bench him. And now everybody is aware of this. Russ is going on a liking spree. Do you think like this hurts the Broncos' ability to bring in a different quarterback or sign players in free agency if guys know like they essentially tried to strong arm Russ into doing something he didn't want to do?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between like what they allegedly did. And by the way, like, we know that Jordan Schultz like has a relationship with Russell Wilson. That's how he gets this info. And that doesn't necessarily make it reliable, but let's pretend, right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. It's easy to be like, this is what happened. Yeah. This guy, these are the evil ones. These are the good ones.
Right. And we can't take it as gospel yet, but I think there's a difference between what they're saying they did versus just being cheap. It's like, okay, they're not being cheap. This is something that could legitimately really hamstring the franchise.
Yeah.
If he gets hurt. And it's about the overall well-being of the Denver Broncos, not we're trying to weasel you out of however many $1 million because we want to put that money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is salary cap money. This is money we need to make a good team.
Yeah.
And they paid him enough. But I also don't believe that they went up to him after the Chiefs win. Yeah,
that would be a weird time to ask for it.
My guess is it actually happened, if it did, after the Chiefs loss 2 weeks earlier. And something got mixed up. Or they didn't tell the truth.
That and that stuff was all before the trade deadline too. But I mean, maybe. Oh yeah, all that timing's interesting. I'm sure we'll get more details about it. But
yeah, there'll be like a clapback.
Yeah, we thought the Broncos were going to be sellers before the trade deadline. They kind of held on, and the Broncos started winning. We're like, oh my God, I'm glad they kept everybody. Let's keep going. The season got better. And that was the last thing I wanted to say was like the Broncos went on that win streak. Yeah. And looking back through some of those games, outside of like some of those crazy throws to Courtland Sutton in the end zone, it was like Russ didn't really get better through the course of the Broncos winning those games. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that Sean Payton couldn't live with, where the defense was playing better. Like everybody kind of understood the offense, understood his system, like what he wanted to run. And your quarterback was just staying the same, just doing the same thing through.
Maybe kind of regressing, it felt like.
Yeah.
The wins because he was playing well early in the season while they're taking L's.
Yeah, I was looking through that Commanders game too, and I was like, I forgot how they were up like 21-3 in that game and let that get away from them with mistakes that started piling up. But anyway, it's going to be interesting offseason for sure. It's going to make the draft more interesting. It's going to make free agency more interesting.
Yep.
And like the fact that we make videos and want to talk about this shit, it makes me a little bit excited that we've got like some mystery heading into this offseason.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that just less than 2 years in, we are watching Russell Wilson get benched by the Denver Broncos.
This team's never boring.
Nope. All right. Good night.
And John Elway played his entire career without ACL and a dick and balls.
Good luck.